Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily Digest. I'm Ben Olson, that's Nathan Fox. Together we're the founders of LSATdemon.com and our weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. Here's what we talked about this week.
This email came to us anonymously, Ben. You want to read it?
Sure. Hi, Ben and Nathan. Check out this turd floating around an LSAT face group. Yikes.
Face group?
I'm going freaking crazy. Facebook group.
Okay.
Thank you. So this is a turd floating around an LSAT Facebook group. Who the hell is still on Facebook? Anyways.
I know. Really? Yeah, that is like, what are you doing? I mean, what do you expect on Facebook? Oh my God. But okay.
Yeah. Okay. For background, this redacted correspondent continues. I think this tutor is telling people that this because he wants to direct them to his app instead of practice tests. This app, released in March, is called LSAT Angel. Redacted says, sound familiar? Yeah, that's odd. There's so much bad advice out there. It make me crazy, I think. Redacted it makes. Anyways, I hope you're both well. Please don't use my name. So this person shares a link to LSAC's Law Hub and then says, but also understand that you should not take more than a single practice test in the next 5 months. Whoa. Oh, okay. And then this person writes, why is that? Then the tutor responds, because it's not a good way to learn what you need to know. I'll have a free talk on this topic soon. Message me if you'd like me to send you the info for the talk. Okay. Yeah, that's strange. Don't take a test for 5 months.
Yeah,
go
don't take a
hide
test
in a
for
hole.
5. Well, no. Pay me for tutoring for 5 months. Sign up for my program for 5 months. But don't do practice tests because I want you to go to my app instead of doing practice tests. What does that mean, Ben, when an LSAT prep non-professional wants you to do their prep but not practice tests? It means something. We can infer
that they're afraid you'll see
well,
how little progress you're making.
Maybe that, but I think we can infer something else.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Why would they maybe not distribute LSAT practice tests?
That's interesting. They don't have a license.
Well, that's my hypothesis. I mean, I haven't cared to fact check myself on this, but my guess is that this is not an LSAC licensee. This is not somebody who, like has people sign up for the Law Hub and the Prep Plus. Like, this is not legit. It's not somebody who's using licensed materials. So if you're not using licensed materials, then you say, oh, well, it's not the best way to learn. So study for 5 months, which, by the way, how many students do we have that are totally successful and kill it after 2 months?
That's crazy. Yeah, a lot. So
many, not everybody. I mean, it's different for everybody. The process takes longer in many cases, but it is sometimes people just take to it. And I think that's why our program offers really the very best value, because man, if you're a killer, if you're like just naturally good at this stuff, our program is perfectly for you, because boy, you can, in a month, you can come do LSAT Demon live for a month and kill it. Some people take to it naturally, and everybody realizes eventually that it's easy and it just makes perfect sense. But especially for the people who are like, nah, I've always been good at standardized tests and I'm going to be good at this test too.
Yeah.
A month or two of us, you're going to totally kill it.
Yeah.
Or you could do 5 months of this guy and never do a practice test, or do the only one free one that's available on LSAC. That would be dumb. But anyway, yeah, there's LSAT Angel, Ben. You got the demon on one shoulder.
Don't listen to the angel. Don't listen to the angel. That's all I can say. In this case, the angel.
You got the angel whispering, no, don't do practice tests. Wait 5 months. Don't do shit for 5 months. Don't actually do the real test for 5 months.
Don't use profanity. Stop it.
Oh, yeah. Demon's like, fuck that guy. What? Do a fucking practice test. What are you afraid of?
The thing is, the demon's a friendly demon. It's not even demonic. It's just a friendly demon helping you do the best you can. All right. Cool.
We're going to wrap it up there. Email
Yeah.
daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some, intelligence from the law school community of people imitating us poorly.
Yep. On your face groups. Yep. Thank you.
Face groups. Please, everybody get off Facebook, for God's sake. We have an email here from Charles.
Charles says, "Hi, Ben/Nathan. Thank you for the unique insights you've been sharing via Demon Daily. To say they're helpful is an understatement. My question pertains to blind review, and I hope you can address this before the June exam, which I intend to take. Do you advocate blind reviewing all questions that the test taker marked as challenging, problematic during the practice test process prior to viewing one's score? That is, before even knowing which questions one missed, or is it acceptable to blind review after knowing which questions were missed? Thanks again. Keep up the good work." When I first read this, I thought Charles was going to ask, do you advocate blind reviewing all questions, period? And to that, I would say, hell no. But if you found a question to be problematic, or there's something that you were confused about it, I would encourage you to go back to it.
Yeah, it's just, I just don't like the idea that you're marking questions as challenging/problematic during your practice tests. I just don't like that. I never did that. It's not something that I teach people to do. It's not something that I want you doing during your official test. I want you doing your practice tests as closely as possible to how you're going to do your official test. So I I just don't advocate for the flagging of questions. I certainly don't want you to flag it, finish the section, and go back to it, which many students do wrongly.
Sure.
I mean, I want
You
you
shouldn't be
working
finishing the section. The vast majority of people shouldn't be finishing their sections.
right.
Period. So
No, unless you're
I agree
scoring
with you on that.
175 on the
Mhm.
regular, you should not be finishing your sections. You should be going slower. You should be more careful. You should be focusing on accuracy, never speed. You should be figuring them out. And so my thing is, some of them are going to be challenging. Some of them are going to be problematic. You're going to figure those ones out though. And if you don't figure it out, you're going to miss it sometimes. And I hate this idea that I feel like it's letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, where it's like, well, but I need to flag it because if I get it right accidentally, then I might not review it. Okay, so you're going to muddy up your whole practice process by flagging questions so that you can squeeze a little bit of extra value out of your review? I don't know. My philosophy is simpler, I think. Do a timed section, focus on one question at a time, do your best on every question, don't flag anything. Some of them are harder, some of them are easier, some of them take longer, some of them don't. Whatever. Do your best. Guess on the ones at the end that you didn't have time for. Then when you review, blind review the ones you missed. And if you want to glance through your section, you probably remember anyway. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I got that one right, but I remember that one gave me a hard time. I suppose if you want to flag it, it's not that big of a deal to flag it. I just know that human nature, or LSAT student nature, I just know what kids do, which is they think that they're going to finish the section and go back, or they flag a question instead of doing the damn work to figure it out. You're 10 seconds away from understanding it, but you flag it, guess, and move on instead of just understanding it, figuring it out. Like, invest the additional 10 seconds to figure it out.
I think that's a good compromise, actually. So if we say don't flag it, but feel free to review those that you remember as challenging, it's going to be a small set of questions. And if it really was challenging, then it's one of those ones where you're like, I can't seem to figure it out here. This is what I'm going to pick. And then I move on. And you're going to remember that question because it was that that conundrum,
Yeah,
right?
if you don't remember it, then it probably didn't give you that you figured it out.
Yeah. And then you can, and then maybe you didn't, and maybe you got it right, and maybe you never come back to it. But look, you're missing, even if you're scoring well, you're missing 2 or 3 questions. Let's figure those out. Yeah.
Like the we just have an abundance of questions, you know? We have 10,000 practice
Mm-hmm.
questions to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you thoroughly review every one that you miss, then you're going to have plenty of questions to really dig deep on. The ones that you got right because of a half guess, okay, fine. But you did get it right though, and I don't whatever. It's fine. Like could that question have taught you something? Yeah.
I think this becomes more applicable to people who are scoring very high. And at that point, they're also going to remember which questions gave them real shit.
So our policy is then don't flag.
Don't flag. That's what you would do on the test. You would not flag.
Right. Yeah, I don't I just want you as much as possible to do your practice test and your official test the same, which is turn off the clock, do your best on every single question, guess at the 5-minute warning, guess on the remaining questions in the section, do one more question after that. Do your best. Always do your best on every question. Then when you're done, you missed some. And the ones you missed, review those. If there's another couple that you remember gave you a hard time, but you got them right, review those as well.
Or, well, I think what he's asking is review those before he knows whether he got them right or wrong. And I do see value in that, but more value for people who are scoring really high because they are the kind of folk who are looking for questions to figure out.
Right. So you're saying before you even score your test
Hmm.
to go back and untimed try that question, like
Yeah,
think
well,
about
you
it
you have
more.
no idea whether the answer you chose is right or wrong, and so an ideal place to really push yourself because you didn't haven't been given this big hint that yeah you got it right.
Yeah. I just don't care. I mean, Charles is saying, is it acceptable to blind review after knowing which questions were missed? I say, yes, it is acceptable.
Well, you're definitely going to do that because you have to review the ones you missed.
No, I mean, I just mean it is totally fine in my book if you want to do a timed section and
Hmm.
immediately score it
Yeah.
and then blind review the ones you missed. I'm totally fine with that. I don't think you need to nope, I can't score myself. I have to go back and blind review before I even know whether I got it right or wrong. I just don't care. I I just think it's kind of more efficient to say, all right, let's see how I did. Let's see which ones I missed. I'm going to definitely review the ones I missed. I mean, those ones are more important than the ones I got right. So I'm going to review the ones I missed and then maybe review another one or two where it was like, oh, yeah, well, I did get that one right, but I know I wasn't 100% on that one. Let me look at it. Who gives a shit that you know you got it right? The point is, you need to understand it. We actually might be on the edge of something that's kind of important here because I don't care whether the whole, even the whole fetishization of blind review, right? It's like, well, once the answer key tells you that the answer is B, not D, that doesn't mean that you now can't properly review that question. It's good to attempt the question again without knowing what the right answer is. I'm not saying blind review is bad.
Hmm.
I think students they put it on such a pedestal that they then they they then refuse, they don't think they can learn anything once they know what the correct answer is. And so what I'm saying is, you know, and this is going to be related to the class that I'm going to teach in a couple days about the right way to blind review. It's just the right way to review, period, which is sure, fine. Attempt the question again without knowing what the answer key tells you the right answer is. But if you've missed the question, then you've picked a wrong answer. You know that that answer is wrong, but why is it wrong? What is it about that answer that's wrong? Why did you pick it? How are you going to avoid making that mistake next time? And then the right answer, like whether you have looked at the answer key or not, the right answer is right for reasons. Like it is right on its own terms, regardless of what the answer key says. It's right. So
Mhm.
why is it right? Do you really understand why it's right? You shouldn't need the answer key to tell you. Do you understand it? It's the right answer because it's right. So why is it right? But why didn't you pick it? And how are you going to avoid that mistake next time? And so, like, really thoroughly digging into those mistakes that you're making, sure, I do like you doing the question again in the dark, right? That's great if you can do the question again without knowing what the answer key says. But even once you do know what the answer key says, you still have those 6 questions that you have to answer in order to be sure that you really get it.
I totally agree with that. I guess the value I see in doing a question that you don't know whether you got right or wrong is that it forces people to grapple with their misunderstanding.
Sure.
I'm worried about people who see the right answer, they start answering those questions that you ask all the time, which by the way, I think we might need to reduce them. I'm worried that when people hear 6 questions, they start to forget like what those questions are, right? So we might need to pick like the 2.
Well, it's why is the right answer right and why is the wrong answer wrong?
You need to remember that. It's easier to remember. I'm worried that people start to go, "Oh, what?"
No, but there's
But
follow-ups though. It's like it's not just why is the right answer right. I mean, that is really critical. You do need to understand why is the right answer right.
yeah.
And you also really do need to understand why that wrong answer is wrong.
And then how you got yourself into that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why those follow-up questions are like, well, but
I'm just saying we might need to leave it at those 3 so people don't forget all of them, right?
got it.
It's like why is the right answer right? Why is the wrong answer wrong? And how the heck did you make these mistakes? Maybe
Right.
something like that.
Yep.
But okay, so my point is that when someone really sits there and they don't have any timer ticking, so they know, the test is over. And it's like, okay, you were stuck between these 2 answers. Can you resolve it now? And they realize that they can't, or they actually go through the process and make that breakthrough, I feel like they're less likely to fall into that trap of, oh, okay, I'm asking these questions. I do, okay, I can see why the right answer is right now. And when I push them on it, they can't actually explain it as much as they think they can. And so I'm trying to avoid that. And I think that when you really have to grapple with it, you're more receptive to the explanation that's given.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And that's why we have always encouraged people to do blind review. That's the whole point of blind review.
Yeah.
That said, once you have taken on this understanding of what the fucking purpose of this exercise is, right? Once you get why you're blind reviewing, then I think it shouldn't be devastating for you to know what the right answer is because you should be able to go, yeah, yeah, I understand that. Okay, I get it that that is the correct answer. But the point is not to know what the answer key says. The point is to know why that's the answer. And you should be able to still review it properly, even though you know what the answer key says. Right. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I think that's maybe where we disagree, or that's the issue, and we need to figure that out because I'm afraid that people understand that still get deceived.
they
They
do.
still they still think, "Oh, okay, yeah. Ooh, I really got to figure this out. I really got to understand it." Yes, I do understand it. Okay, explain it to me. And as they start to, they stumble.
Yeah, that's just people who still haven't grappled. They still haven't really learned the first lesson. You know, they're
Yeah.
they're not understanding that the right answer makes sense. The right answer answers the question. The wrong answer doesn't make sense. The wrong answer doesn't answer the question. That's independent of the answer key. It's not just that one answer is better than another. One of the answers is right. The other answers are wrong. I agree, Ben. No, I'm not. We're on the same page. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I'm thinking about the student who is gonna really get it. Like the ones that we can really help are the ones who are gonna actually get it, right? Which is, oh, this test makes perfect sense. I just have to make sense of it. It's supposed to make sense. Because, like, for you, Ben, or for me, it doesn't hurt our review process at all to know what the answer key says. When you know what the answer key says, you're like, I don't give a shit what the answer key says. I want to know why. And same thing for me, and same thing for our teachers, and same thing for, I would say, the vast majority of people who are ever going to score anything in the 170s. You've realized that it's not about the answer key. It's about why that's the right answer and why that's the wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Absolutely.
I think blind review is a great way of like forcing yourself to do the review the right way.
And to grapple with your attempt at trying to identify what's different about those answers and why one is 100% correct and the other is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. How sure can you be before you even look at the answer key?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, for that reason, I still do questions in class without knowing what the answer is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I cheat just for expediency and I look at the answer key or turn on the answers as I'm teaching. But
Yeah.
other times, I intentionally don't because I want to show people what the real process looks like.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think that the real, the ones who are going to really master it are going to be it's going to be like, well, yeah, blind review is great, but it's like, it doesn't have to be this perfect process of blind review, right? Because if we go back to this actual email from Charles, it's like he's wanting to flag questions so that he can go blind review them, even if he gets them right. And it's like, well, but I don't really care that much, Charles. Like, you could probably let go of the flagging and just review the ones you missed. And then, yeah, if there's one or two other ones, you can go back and review those ones. And you got it right, but now you need to do that same work though. Like, why was that right? And whatever other answer you were thinking about, why was that wrong?
I agree with that. I would say don't flag them, but I would say when you get done with the section and you remember that one that you were grappling with, go to it right first before you even look at what's right or wrong. So you don't even
Okay.
know whether you got it right or wrong. And then and that's the kind of thing where if you're remembering that, then you're also the kind of person who's going to benefit the most from that. For the vast majority of people when they're starting out, look, they're getting half the section wrong or even a third of the section wrong. It's like, okay, stop. Just go figure out why you got those wrong. You have a lot of low hanging fruit that you
Totally.
can just get by getting those understood.
Totally.
Yeah.
Boomer says, Dear Nathan and Ben, I got a lot of book learning in me. So when I started studying for the LSAT, it was demoralizing to meet a foe who could KO me in one punch. As Mike Tyson said, quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, end quote. And after my first bout with the LSAT, I was spitting blood, and my plan looked like a dropped bowl of alphabet soup. Mixing metaphors there.
Yeah.
But the first month of the LSAT Demon Live has helped already. I went from A, getting 3 right on logic games in February, self-studying with the LSAT trainer and whiffing, to B, getting 13 right on a logic game section last week after 2 weeks with LSAT Demon Live. It's almost like too good to be true, right? Like it sounds like a ridiculous amount of improvement, but it's not, because instead of all this like technical mumbo jumbo, Boomer has started to learn that the test makes perfect sense and you just have to slow down and figure that shit out. Our whole philosophy is like, well, okay, look, read it carefully, try to connect some dots. Don't worry so much about like semantics and formal logic and you have to make diagrams that look exactly like, figure out what type of game it is first. Come on. You don't need to do any of that bullshit.
Yeah.
You stop getting so stuck in game types. God damn it. Instead, just read it carefully. It's always a reading comprehension test first. Read it carefully, figure it out.
Yeah.
And that might sound like impossible for sure. I mean, getting 3 right on logic games in February.
That's bad.
Not only is it bad, it's worse than random chance.
Yep.
You're repelling the correct answers somehow. You would do better if you randomly guessed. It's amazing that people do that badly, right? I mean, what happens is they just freeze up and don't even finish the section. They just give up. They tap out because Mike Tyson punched them in the mouth. But you're not fighting Tyson. You're fighting, this is Glass Joe. And
these are games in the newspaper. If you countered them in the newspaper, you'd probably do better if you just like had fun with it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. If this was like the New York Times latest addition to their, repertoire of games, you just, oh, what? Huh? And you'd figure it out. It's like, not. They are not hard. The LSAT is easy. So like to go from 3 to 13 on logic games, you need to believe that the LSAT is easy.
Yeah.
Because it is. So welcome, Boomer. And I've seen people go from 3 to 13 to 23.
Yeah.
And we have them in our class right now. There's people who show up at my live class who went from low single digits on the games to perfect every time on the games. And you're on your way, Boomer. So congratulations and welcome.
Yep.
Boomer says, that's far from the perfect I need, but it's progress, and the progress heartens me. As it should. 10 LSAT points, Ben, in 2 weeks. Or 10 logic games points, which probably is 10 points, huh? On the new test where there's only 75 questions.
Yeah.
Every question is a point, right?
Yeah.
Roughly? Okay. Drilling and watching videos in an active way have been key. Sorry. Mama birds don't lecture their chicks on aerodynamics before they push them out of the nest. They just see that they have feathers and get them to learn to fly by flying. That's what LSAT Demon does. No meta theory, no shortcuts, no bullshit, just flying. Do you agree with that? We're on metaphor 3 at least in Boomer's email. What do you
Boomer,
think of metaphor 3?
You have lots of metaphors, but yeah, I have to agree with this. Just do it. Just do a practice problem and learn from your mistakes. And that's how classes are too. It's not like we get up there and we're like, okay, so I'm going to explain to you the theory of games. It's like, do this game and then we'll walk it through it together. And I'm sure anything you're confused about will make a lot more sense when we're working through it together. And now you get it because it's an example and we learn from examples. This is not true just on the LSAT. It's true almost universally. People learn better from examples.
100%. It's like, that's why you crashed and burned with the LSAT trainer, I guess, is that it's just like theoretical and all this like, well, you better learn these diagramming techniques first. You better don't do practice tests. Do like, no. We're flipping that.
Yeah.
Do practice tests. Because here's the thing. If we push you out of the nest and you crash, you don't break your neck like you do if you're a bird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is true that like some of them don't make it. Right? Like the ones that fly. And I guess most of them manage, but some of them you'll see it below the nest, just dead. So
anyway,
well, that doesn't happen on the LSAT. Like what is there's no penalty. Now don't go take the official test, but practice tests, come on, there's 100 of them. Take a practice test, see how you do, or take part of a practice test, see how you do. One question, see how you do.
Yep.
Learn as much as you can. You might crash. Yeah, that's part of learning. Yep. I mean, it's like learning to ride a bike is the perfect analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, think about that, like reading about the theory of riding bicycles.
Oh, you didn't do that?
Oh, God. Yeah, can you imagine? Do you teach your kids how to ride a bike?
Like, no, I put them in front of YouTube and I said, okay, we're going to learn how balance works.
Study the physics of it first. Let me see the mathematical proof of what a bicycle wheel does when it's spinning. Yeah. Anyway, you crash a couple times and then you get the feel for it and then you realize there's nothing to it. And that's how we get dramatic improvement out of our students, is that we kind of coach them to they're wobbly and then eventually they're riding down the street by themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So you're on your way, Boomer. And that's fantastic to hear. That said, Boomer continues, 2 quotes have been helpful. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. I never say that one. Do you say that one?
No, I'm worried. So I'm thinking about this actually, because I was reading ahead. I do think that there's a tension here, and that is that we do want people to practice as best they can, right? They're aiming for accuracy, because I don't want people developing bad habits. I don't want someone to be tired and then to practice shitty, in a shitty way, or someone to go quickly so they can check off boxes and be like, well, I drilled 5 logical reasoning questions today. Yeah, it's like, that's not the goal. The goal is to do the best you can on a question and then learn from that, and then do the best you can on the next question, and so on. So I think there is a point here, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. Practice itself, especially if it's shitty, is not going to make you perfect. In fact, it's going to reinforce that shittiness. So I think there's some value here. My fear is that people read perfect practice makes perfect, and they're so afraid to make mistakes that they don't practice, or that they, it's like, it becomes an analysis paralysis thing. And it's like, yeah, what about the 85% rule? Tell people not to do 100%, but 80% of their running speed, and they'll end up running. Yeah. And they'll end up running faster. Right. So I like, there's some truth here. I'm just worried how this could be interpreted.
Sure. I mean, that's an aphorism that I never have used and will not use. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You will hear me say that again, because the LSAT's easy, and that's very much like the 85% rule, right? If you just dial it back a little bit and just kind of focus on the easy stuff and just keep, what's in front of you, read it carefully. Do you understand? Figure out what they're asking you. Do you understand that answer? No? Okay, well then probably not going to pick that one.
Yeah.
Do you understand this answer? Yeah. Does it answer the question? Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Okay. That's the answer. It's easy. The test is easy, but you have to make it make sense. It has to click. I would not be focusing on perfection. Now in review, maybe I would, right? In review, once you've missed a question, then let's spend time on it. Let's make sure we get to that click.
Yeah.
Well, that's what proper review is about.
That's what proper review is about. And though proper practice, right? Because we don't want people just coming in there and firing off answers,
cavalierly making mistakes. Yeah.
And just trying to check boxes, right? There's so many people who are like, okay, I did 2 sections today. It's like, they feel like that's their determinant of success. Like, I did this and I've been doing 2 sections every day for the last month. It's like, yeah, but how are you doing those sections? Are you practicing those sections well? Because that's ultimately what you're going to be getting better at.
Yeah. Well, what did you get? What are you confused about? Right? Like, you did 2 sections. Good. What are you confused about in those 2 sections?
Yep. There's a lot of questions there. Because
if your answer is nothing, bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You're what? Really? 2 whole sections, and so perfectly, you could perfectly explain to me exactly why the right answers are right and exactly why the wrong answers are wrong. There was never just like, well, that's a better fit than that one, so moving on. There's no way you're not confused if you did 2 sections. You're not an LSAT teacher. Our teachers are confused. I'm confused. Ben's confused. Like, you should be confused sometimes about a couple. Yeah. If you're really getting in there, you're going to find those areas of uncertainty. And that's where the real progress comes from. So you do have to be careful enough to find those areas when you're reviewing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Boomer continues. It's an unsexy, unvarnished truth that you just have to do the work. But the demon has made that work interactive, social, and manageable. That's awful nice. Thanks, Boomer.
Yeah.
What's the point of all this? Just to say what's worked for me already and to express some gratitude. So thanks, sincerely, Boomer. P.S. I can't help but include one more quote.
Boomer, you are a reader.
3 quotes, and here comes 3. This is aphorism number 3.
Okay.
Cry in the dojo, laugh on the battlefield.
Okay. So like work hard and prepare before the fight, and then
And
therefore
then
be
humiliate your
victorious
opponents on
and
the
therefore laugh.
battlefield because you're
Okay.
such a
Got it.
badass because of all the
Yeah.
work you did in the dojo.
Yep.
With no your in real life test dates, we can't take Nathan's advice of laughing at the scrubs who haven't prepared. So this is because of my thing of like, you know, when I would used to take in-person standardized tests, I definitely would pause before the beginning of the section and look around the room. You know,
Yeah. I do kind of miss that experience.
of like
Um,
game on.
yeah. Well, you're walking into this, school, and there's all these people frantically holding their LSAT tickets and they're trying to get checked in. And then I still remember standing in line and the person in front of me was reviewing a Kaplan question type cheat sheet. It was like a
Before the
card
test?
before
Oh
the
my
test. And I
God.
think they turned around and asked me a question like, "Hey, do you know something about these strengthening questions or something like that?"
Holy.
And I'm
Like
just thinking
cramming.
like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, well, enjoy today's exam. I don't know what I said to them. I don't remember, but it's just, it's in some ways it's a confidence booster. You're like, wow, half these people, they are lost.
Yeah, it was great in person because you could see the people, like the guy who shows up with literally a full box of pencils.
Yeah, pencils, yeah.
It was
Sharpened,
like
pre-sharpened,
a
and
full box of pencils. Really? Like, how many of those do you plan on going through? That is
one
amazing.
one per question. You're gonna really like you got a lot of tension on that graphite there.
Yeah, people with their LSAT books and like people crying, freaking out. Yeah, I mean, like I don't want to be mean about it, but it's like Steph Curry stepping onto the basketball court before a game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you see Steph and he's like nodding and feeling it and like he's fucking ready to go because he's like,
Yeah.
well, I am the best player out here, so I got him on the best team. I mean, we're gonna kick your ass, so let's do this.
Yeah.
And that is the feeling. If you can, you know, that's what we're going for. Obviously, Boomer is correct. The more prep you do, the more likely it is that you're going to feel that on the day. The people who end up scoring in the 170s, and we have a hell of a lot of them, end up, you know, they end up loving the test, and they've done all the prep, and they walk in there. Well, they walk into their own office at home, you know, sit down at their own desk, feeling like, okay, I'm ready for this. This is just another practice test. I've crushed a million of them. I know I can do this. Bring it on.
Yeah.
And that feeling, it's a good feeling, and it can be developed with the right kind of prep. So Boomer is definitely on the way. Anything more for Boomer?
No. We have an email here from Rachel.
It says, hi, I hope you're doing well. I took my first LSAT this past April. I just got my score this morning since I just wrote the writing sample last week. Oh, wow. Okay. Took the test in April and then didn't do the writing sample until like way into May. My score is 166, 91st percentile, but my goal is 170 plus. 166 is in the normal range of my practice test scores, comma, my average is 167. I plan to take another LSAT this coming August since I plan to start my application in September. I think I can improve next time, but I cannot guarantee I will get a higher score. Should I cancel the score of 166 or keep it? I would really appreciate it if you could provide some advice. Best, Rachel. To cancel or not to cancel?
Keep it.
How come?
Well, if you get a higher score, which is what your plan is, then the 166 will do absolutely nothing. The schools will take the highest score. If for some reason you can never pull a score higher than a 166, well, at least you have a 166, which can get you full ride scholarships to many schools. So I don't know why you would throw away something that can help you and can't hurt you.
Yeah, a cancel and a bad score are the same thing. That's not the score that you're going to use that's not the score that law schools are going to care about. This is obviously somebody who paid for score preview. that thing where LSAC lets you see your score only on your first ever attempt. You have to pay them $75 or whatever it is, and then you can decide whether to cancel. We don't really recommend score preview because we never recommend canceling. As Ben said, if like, what if you get unlucky on your next attempt? What if you decide you have to go to law school right now? You have to apply with this score for whatever reason. Like, you can't take the test because you're going to be out of the country. Your best friend's getting married. You have some natural disaster there. You get sick, who knows? And you never get higher than a 166. Well, you're going to be a 166 if you keep this score. If you cancel, then you're nothing. You're a 0. They do see that cancel on your record, by the way. 166 is not like an embarrassingly low score.
No. I mean, I'm glad you're trying to get higher and are going for it. I think you should. And I think you should expect a higher score. But this 166 is not going to hurt you, but it could help you. So there's really no benefit to canceling. I'm thinking of one possible exception here, and that is Canadian students because they do average scores, right?
At some schools, it varies school by school. You need to talk to the actual school and see what they do in Canada. But yeah, in the US, law schools only care about your highest score. And there's just no reason that 166 would ever hurt you. It sort of creates a floor, right? Where even if you score 165 or 164 on your next attempt, which, by the way, you won't have score preview for that next attempt. So presumably you're going to be, even if you don't think it went great, you're still probably not going to cancel your score. You certainly shouldn't be racking up multiple cancellations. That's just dumb. That's a waste of money, waste of time. You got it makes you look weird with a whole string of cancellations on your record. Like, they might start asking questions at that point. But if you do score 165 or 164, the law schools are going to go, no, you're a 166. You have a 166 on record. We're going to report 166 to the ABA because we only report the highest score on those 509 reports. And so that 166, I don't know, it creates like I can never get worse than that if you keep it. If you cancel it, you can get worse than that.
Yep. You can go down.
And if you're averaging 167, that means that you probably do sometimes score 162, 163, 164. And yeah, that 166 is right in the middle of your range. You definitely want to keep that. You also want to prep hard, do lots of practice tests, move your whole range higher and higher. If your goal is 170 plus, then you need to be getting lots of 170 pluses on your practice test scores.
Yep.
Before you walk in for the official test again in August.
Yep. Doubling down on this floor idea, it's kind of like you're a mountain climber and you're putting stakes in the mountain. And right now you have a stake at 166. You can go up, but if you ever fall down, at least you have that stake up there.
Yeah. Should I take out this support? I have the opportunity to place this, what do they call them? Piton? I have this thing. They call it protection for one thing, I could have this protection in the mountain face or not. Yeah, go ahead and put it.
Keep it there.
We're hoping you're going to climb to the top.
Pull it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Should I? Nah, fuck it. I'll just take it out. I'm going to do higher anyway. I mean, and I believe you. You're going to get higher. You're going to make it higher. But yeah, that protection can't hurt you. It can only help you. So yeah, leave it in there.
Anthony emails us.
Says, hey guys, I have 3 questions. I need to be able to apply this cycle, I am scheduled for the August LSAT. That's a comma splice. That's why I read out loud the comma.
Yep.
That could have been a period.
Yep.
Or you need the word and.
Yep.
Actually, you just don't need a comma. Yeah, you need the word and, or you need a period. Okay. I stopped working for...
Well, you need the comma if you do an and. Yeah. Otherwise...
Why? It's the same subject.
Well, you'd have to drop the subject. You could do and, but then you'd have to drop the subject.
Oh, and am scheduled.
Yep.
Or you could put comma and I am scheduled.
Exactly.
But the period is your friend.
Yep. Generally speaking.
Yeah. Okay. I stopped working for a few months in order to fully commit to learning how to get my best LSAT score. I started my LSAT journey mid-March this year with a cold diagnostic of 140. I have ever since studied every day, 7 days a week. That's every day. From 9:30 to 6 o'clock. Holy shit.
Okay. You quit your job and you took on another job. Jeez, Louise. Okay.
Wow.
That's like going to the gym for all day. Like, is that effective? No.
I usually do, at the very least, 4 to 5 timed sections a day with deep after review of everything I had doubts or got wrong. The broken sentence. Sorry, Anthony. I know you're writing for help, and you tossed this email off, but you're writing to like lawyer adjacent folk, and we are going to be very critical of your words. Okay. Anyway, I started with Blueprint, which absolutely was a mistake. Parentheses, they sucked. And then found out about you guys. Since then, my 140 on March has converted to an average of 167 to 173. That's not an average, that's a range. Most of my progress started when I found out about the demon. My problem here is that if I continue my daily routine, which is working on LSAT questions all day, every day, I will for sure run out of official questions in about a month or so. There are only a few questions / timed sections from official tests left, comma splice. What do I do when I run out of questions? I would have completed every test from 92 down. Should I retake the same question and timed sections that I already did? Or should I go study non-official LSAT questions? Okay, definitely not that. Never, ever, ever do that. Not sure what to do about this situation, which will come if I continue my schedule. I feel better about the LSAT, and I am honestly doing better every week. I should hope so, if you're working 8.5 hours a day, Ben.
That's
7 days a week.
Wow. I think you're going to benefit from taking a little bit of a cooler approach to this. Even just one day off a week ought to help you immensely. Although you've made huge progress.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, don't
nice
knock
work.
it. I mean, all right, it seems to be working. Comma splice, I wouldn't want to change my schedule since it has worked so far and I don't feel burnt out at all. Comma splice, what should I do when I run out of questions?
Okay, first of all, I'm glad that it's working for you, and I it's hard to knock success, but I do think you would actually do better if you just toned it down a little bit. Take one day off a week, if not two, but at least one, and go from 8.5 hours down to, let's say, 6, and break it up. That's still a lot. And I think you'd give your brain more time to absorb this stuff, work out, do those things that, are also good for the mind. As for repeating questions, not a problem at all. Will your scores be biased? Possibly. Yeah. If you take a test that you've taken before, your score might be higher than it otherwise would have been had you never seen it before. But we don't care, because it's not about getting scores on practice tests. It's about learning. And until you get a 180 on a test, there is still something for you to learn from that test. So feel free to repeat tests. It does not matter.
And consider just slowing down in the first place so that you actually understand it the first time. And you're doing so much volume. You're doing more than a full test a day.
Yeah.
If you're actually understanding them, you should be making tons of progress.
I mean, Anthony is making tons of progress.
He is making tons of progress.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question I had was, if I take the September LSAT and score 170 plus, would it be wise to apply still? Is applying on October a mistake because it's considered a month late? What are your thoughts on applying on October? Odd double misuse there of on instead of in.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's the end of the world. If you have your best score on record, I think you could do better to apply in September. But some schools, they open in October. I would just hope that you really have everything ready.
Yeah, and other schools, I mean, we've heard Yale specifically, and Anthony's about to mention Yale.
Mm,
We've heard talk of the top schools just not even evaluating any applications until January anyway.
yeah.
That said, if you want to go to law school for free, which we strongly encourage you to do, we saw scholarship offers coming out last year in September. A full year in advance, scholarships were coming out. So, do you want that money or do you not want the money? The bulk of our advice is targeted toward people who want to go to law school for free. If you want to go to law school for free, I think you want to put yourself in line for the first scholarship offers of the year. And there's no penalty. There's just no downside to waiting another year. To be sure that you have your best LSAT, to be sure that your application shit is really ready to go. Anthony needs editing help, right? Anthony needs writing help.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. I'm worried about Anthony getting a 173 and saying, oh, that's 170 plus, but Anthony could get a 176 or a
Right.
178. And that's going to make a difference when you're applying to Yale and Stanford and other top schools.
Yeah, you want to put your best foot forward, not just a good foot. Don't rush this. You're already, I mean, God, he hasn't even taken it officially, not once. He's registered for August.
Yeah.
If you kill August and you're really ready, then sure, you could apply, but that's like putting too much pressure on your August exam. I don't want you to do the same thing with putting too much pressure on your September exam. If I could wave a magic wand, I'm sure you would agree with me on this, Ben. If we could wave a magic wand and just force Anthony to apply in September of 2023,
Hmm.
wouldn't that be amazing? That'd be
The
beautiful,
pressure
right?
would go off, and then you could
Oh,
focus entirely on the LSAT and then turn your focus to all the other
entirely
parts
your
of your
applications.
application. Yeah.
Yeah. Go back to work, by the way. Like, even if it's only a part time job, you know,
Yeah.
live a more civilized, balanced life instead of like forcing yourself to do LSAT in the most insane possible way. Anyway, yeah, if you really do kill August or September and you want to apply in October, you could still get great offers. It just depends on how dedicated you are to really following our advice of don't pay for law school. And if you really want to do it our way, I think you just would apply in September or not at all. Simple rule. There can be exceptions, but I have no reason. Why would you want to do it in any other way? I just don't. There's no reason to rush. So okay. Side question. I saw a video of Nathan and Ruth discussing why she chose Yale over a full ride at a T14. Yeah, she had other multiple full rides. I want to say she had a full ride to Chicago, which is not just a T14. Chicago is currently ranked third. In the video, it seems that Nathan found her reasoning was acceptable because it was Yale. My question is if this exception should be considered only for Yale. Hypothetically speaking, if an individual with big law goals was offered a full ride on Florida Law School Levine or sticker price at Harvard, would it make sense to go to Harvard or the other way around? Anthony. That's a, I
It's
mean,
a weird comparison, right?
that's a
What's
super weird comparison. Florida is like a vastly different law school from Harvard. And, I want to be clear. I wasn't making an exception, like an intellectual exception, like a logical exception. I wasn't making an exception for Yale. I was making an exception for Ruth. Ruth knows what the fuck she's getting herself into. By the way, New Haven is Ruth's hometown. So it's like she knows what Yale is. And she knows why she's going to Yale. And she made a much tougher decision, I think, than turning down Chicago to go to Yale. I mean, Florida versus Harvard is a much bigger difference than Yale versus Chicago.
Yeah, it's a much bigger difference. And I mean, all these exceptions, when someone is making them, could apply to Stanford, to Harvard, even to Chicago.
Right.
You have the thing is, let's look at the places you've actually been accepted
I
to
know.
once you're accepted to them,
Right.
and how much money we're talking about, what you want to do with your degree. At least if you're going to make this exception, if you're going to pay full price or some astronomical sum, even if it's not full, to some higher ranked school, well, okay, just do it with your eyes wide open. What are you paying for? What do you expect to get out of it? And I think people who are getting themselves in that situation also have the wherewithal to make that call.
Exactly. Let's get it in. Let's get admitted to Harvard first.
Yeah, let's
Then
get
we'll
there.
talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, as of right now, you don't have an official LSAT on record, let alone admission to Harvard and a full ride to Florida. So, thank you for asking us this hypothetical. I understand that you're just emailing in to some random podcasters. We shouldn't take it too seriously. We tend to take things very seriously here. And Anthony's like, whoa, dude, all I was doing was just making conversation.
Yeah.
If you're just making conversation, then my response is, I don't know, dude, it depends. But we can address that very seriously once you get closer to it. Ultimately, you're going to be the one who's going to decide, though, right? Like, where do you want to practice big law? Do you want to practice big law in New England, or do you want to practice big law in Miami? What are your other offers? Because it ain't going to be just Harvard and Florida.
Nope. No, if you're getting into Harvard, you're getting into a bunch of other places.
If
Guaranteed.
you got into Harvard, you're getting into basically every other school you applied to in between Florida and Harvard, with a wide array of scholarship offers. And so, unless you only applied to Florida and Harvard, which would be incredibly dumb, you're going to have many other offers. So your hypothetical is invalid.
But thanks for writing in.
But thanks, Anthony. Yeah, of course. I think Anthony knows that we appreciate him. And keep working hard, Anthony. Maybe not as hard. And it definitely, I mean, you're going to run out of materials. It's time for you to start taking the official LSAT.
Yep.
And he's registered for August, which, okay, great. Good luck. Keep in touch. Let us know how it goes. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.